Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 8th of July. Now it's about 9 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. As you can see, today's update gonna be a little bit different. Because yesterday I forgot to mention that I will take day off on Saturday. I decided to make video anyway, even though I'm planning for so long to have one day off a week on Saturdays. But yes, I will make update anyway, and I will share main topics that are making headlines in Russian media right now, and well, hopefully you will find this video interesting. And before I start talk about some news, let me first of all share with you a quick summary of the situation on the front line. It's mainly, unfortunately I don't have a map here, but we all are familiar with the maps, and we do understood very well sectors of the front because we spent so much time to learn some more about situation in this conflict. And well, overall it's operational pause all along from southern part, let's say from Kherson region, to northern part of the front up to Kupiansk and Kharkov region. There are some differences, of course. Some sectors of the front are more active than others, but if we take Kherson region, it's mainly artillery duels, even though some small units of Ukrainian forces are dispersed in on the left bank of the Dnieper River and are trying to hide. Some of them probably are trying to go back to cross the Dnieper and go back to right bank, but Russia has full control over the situation there. So mainly it's when it comes to significant activity, it's artillery duels and surveillance operations. When it comes to, and by the way, thankfully nothing happened to Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, which is right next to Kakhovka water reservoir, and let's hope nothing will happen. After so many talks about this power plant, everyone probably was expecting some kind of provocation from Zelensky's regime, but maybe some parts of the Western elites did say to Zelensky, you know what, enough is enough. Don't do anything stupid in direction of ZNPP, and maybe this work, maybe. So when it comes to Zaporozhye and Sovdanetsk sector of the front line, it's operational pause still, and as I said quite a few times before, second wave of this so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive will maybe take place in about 2-3 weeks time. I don't see earlier than that that second wave, but yet again, I'm not military expert, and I mean, my reading of big picture can be mistaken. But right now it's operational pause, some local scale skirmishes. Yesterday, for example, we had information that for some strange reason Ukrainian forces left in hurry, left Pitikhatki settlement. Maybe they have some intelligence that Russian side was preparing some counteroffensive or something else, but they left their positions and ran away. Maybe some kind of mutiny did happen inside Ukrainian forces in that area. I don't know, but many Russian Telegram channels did report that Ukrainian forces just run away. When it comes to Orekhovo sector of the front, as we know, Rabotino is right next to contact line now, and some Russian sources are saying that Rabotino probably first settlement that lies on the first line of defense. So formally, we can probably say that after months of this counteroffensive, Zelensky's regime did manage to reach first line of defense. But me personally, I think Rabotino is not the first line of defense. It's just not far away from first line. But anyway, fact of the matter is that this Ukrainian so-called counteroffensive is just total failure and suicidal move on part of Ukrainian armed forces, which I did predicted for many months that this will happen. And well, for our community, no surprises here. When it comes to Donetsk direction, Marinka and Avdiivka, hot points traditionally, but yet again, even though there are some local scale skirmishes, no one side is achieving any breakthroughs for this moment. And yes, despite rumors in Russian segment of internet that that Moscow is planning some kind of offensive in direction of Avdiivka, at least for now, we are absorbing operational pause, just local scale offensives from one to another side. Bakhmut direction also becoming close to stalemate, kind of, because on the southern flank of Bakhmut or Artyomovsk, seems like Ukrainian forces did run out of steam and they are losing momentum. But on the northern flank of Artyomovsk, it was Russian forces that lately that were conducting some offensive operations and even gained some regain control over the territories that was previously left, especially around settlement of Berkhovka and Berkhovka water reservoir. But overall, situation is looks like operational pause in my reading, at least for now. So all attempts of Ukrainian forces to achieve any success on the southern flank of Bakhmut in areas of Kurdyumovka and Klishevka did fail. They did run out of steam, I guess. And on the northern flank of Bakhmut, Russian forces were active, and even though they did regain some control over some territories, if nothing on large scale has been planned, then I don't think Russian forces will continue their offensive. They will probably just dig in and try to improve their defensive positions. And when it comes to Seversk, Liman and Kupiansk directions, initiative in these areas definitely are in Russian hands. Well, as you know, I did predict that Russian forces probably are planning some large-scale offensive operations in this area, from Seversk to Kharkov region up north, and probably even Bakhmut sector, Chisovyar, Konstantinovka, and some other settlements. But this offensive, if it will take place, will happen close to end of summer, so it's quite some time before we will, it will take place, and we will during this time probably see gradual development of the ground by Russian side for this offensive. And this is like quick summary of the situation on the front line. I probably I won't be mistaken if I will characterize the overall situation as an operational pause. And now let's talk about some other news. And of course, first of all, this topic of cluster munition. It's official now. Biden administration did made final decision, and the next military aid package for Zelensky's regime, cluster munition will be included. Also, Bradley and Striker armored personnel carriers, tens of them. Also, HIMARS ammunition, Patriot missiles, and some artillery shells. But of course, main attention have been drawn towards this topic of cluster munitions, and you should see comments on Russian segment of internet. People are very angry. Many citizens of Russia and supporters of Russia all around the world are very angry. Many are demanding some strong steps from Moscow. But yet again, well, what those steps can be? I mean, Moscow cannot use nuclear weapons, isn't it? And what else then? I guess when these additional weapons and ammunition will arrive in Ukraine, Russian side will just try to destroy them in the warehouses. That's what Moscow gonna do, or at least try. But when it comes to these demands from Moscow to take some drastic measures, and you can see that people are openly talking about necessity. Some people, I'm not talking about majority of society, because I have no survey on my hands. But when there are talks about Russia should use nukes and end this madness in an hour or 30 minutes, come on, guys. I mean, nuclear weapons, it's not a joke, isn't it? I mean, hopefully those type of weapons will never be used. But yet again, I mean, you know how many times did I said that in previous updates that this constant escalation from the West, from Western elites, may push Moscow in the corner when Russian leadership may not see any other way out other than use of some extreme force. And that will be very unfortunate, but I don't think Moscow is in that corner, at least for now. You tell me what you think about it. So that's a topic of cluster munitions. Of course, during the day there will be many statements from Russian officials, I'm quite sure, and I will share additional news on my Telegram. By the way, also one of the main topics today is a visit of Zelensky in Ukraine, in Turkey, sorry. And Erdogan did already made statements, and he said that well, Turkey is supporting Ukraine and will continue to support Ukraine. And very same time, Erdogan did spoke about necessity to prolong grain deal. I mean, all the usual stuff that you expect from Erdogan and his government. And well, when it comes to Turkey's military aid to Ukraine. Well, even though some drones were delivered, some armored personnel carriers, or not armored personnel carriers, but armored vehicles. Overall, Turkey's involvement was not that uh, impressive, at least for now. But if Moscow will not prolong grain deal, I believe Turkey will change its behavior and they will probably start delivering artillery pieces, ammunition to Zelensky's regime, armored personnel carriers maybe, possibly even tanks. So Moscow has some difficult situation on its hands, but yet again, if Turkey will start acting extremely hawkish towards Moscow, Russia can always close its market for Turkey, and it will devastate that country. I mean, Turkey's economy is in a difficult situation already, and if it was up to me, I will don't compromise, not even for a second, with Ankara. If they want to escalate, let's escalate. Russia can deal with it. I'm 100% sure. But yet again, let's see how Moscow will react on steps by Erdogan and his government, especially if grain deal won't be prolonged. And it's quite logical to assume that this deal won't be prolonged, would not be prolonged, because of so many statements from Russian officials that this deal don't work for Russian side. But yet again, let's see how situation will develop. And let me share with you a few more topics. As you can see, it's a quite nice park. It's early morning and not that many people are in the park, but usually this park is very popular and busy. So, by the way, that's quite interesting. When it comes to story of cluster munitions, some 38 NGOs in the West did condemn this decision of Biden's administration, and even some NATO member states did oppose this decision. But of course, we all know that these condemnations and a critique from some Western states do mean nothing for Washington. Absolutely. But fact itself is interesting. Of course, that they still time to time some organizations in the West or some politicians are coming to their senses. Well, and by the way, Russia did demand gathering of Security Council in UN, United Nations, to discuss topic of Nord Streams. These topics aren't gonna go away, I believe, and even though Washington did try very hard, Biden's administration did try very hard to somehow, through propaganda outlets and through other means, downgrade meaning of this act of international terrorism on Nord Stream pipelines, And despite the fact that Washington did try to divert attention and blame basically some other countries, including Ukraine and even Poland, we all know what did happen after investigation of Seymour Hersh, award-winning US journalists. There is no questions really left who is behind of that attack, and as we can see, Moscow also is not willing to forget what happened, and maybe not today, not tomorrow, but in sometime in the future, Washington will be forced to recognize its involvement, and I guess eventually Washington and Norway and other countries that were involved will pay compensation. That's how this situation gonna resolve eventually. They will just pay 10, 15 billion, maybe more, to compensate all the losses that Russia and Germany had. And yes, but reputation of US, of course, destroyed for maybe forever. Maybe forever. That's how bad for US Biden administration was really. I mean, it's I don't know, man. I'm not historian, but I don't think US ever had such a bad administration. I just, you know. Let me continue with some other news, few more topics, and this is it really. By the way, some diplomatic row is taking place between Israel and Ukraine, because Ukraine's ambassador did criticize Israel for close ties or good relationships with Russia, and Israeli officials did respond and said that it's not up to Ukraine to tell Israel how to act and with whom. And it's true, isn't it? I mean, Ukraine is not in no position to say anything to Israel whatsoever. To be honest, I'm quite surprised that Israel even maintains diplomatic relationships with current Ukraine, given the fact that Nazi mass murderers have been glorified in that country. But it's interesting that lately Israel becoming a little bit more active in terms of with Ukraine, and lately more and more critical words we do hear from Israeli government, and who knows, maybe sometime in the future we will see even some strong steps from Israel. But yet again, when Zelensky will flee Ukraine, if he will manage to do so, he will probably end up in Israel. So Israeli government do have some situation on its hands, and they need to act some balancing to balance their relationship with Zelensky personally and his associates. Well, it's not good optics anyway for Israel. It's just I mean, me personally, I don't understand how Israel can still have any diplomatic relationships with Ukraine. I mean, when it's almost impossible to find in current modern Ukraine even a village that has no streets with names of Bandera, Melnik, Shukhevich, or some other Nazi mass murderers. how Israel, especially Israel, man, how Israel can have a diplomatic relationship with such a state. I don't get. And few more topics, and this is gonna be it for this short update. Let's see what I have here. By the way, Russia did decide to hold on to its decision to cut oil production and oil supplies on world market, which is quite understandable. Russia and OPEC member states do their best to simultaneously keep oil flow to the market, but at the same time keep prices in the acceptable level. And that's why not just Russia but Saudi Arabia and many other oil producer nations are cutting their oil exports. And the last news for this update will be that we have TASS news agencies report that US officials, I believe Sullivan, who is aide of Biden in national security advisor of Biden, if I'm not mistaken, he said that during the NATO summit, Ukraine won't receive invitation to join NATO and will definitely not become member of NATO, which is maybe for some people, I don't know, in this world is a surprise, but for us, for our community, it was clear from very beginning that Ukraine won't receive invitation to join NATO, and Ukraine will never become part of NATO. And to be honest, I find it strange that this type of simple topics have been discussed on the highest levels, and not just advisors to the heads of states, but heads of states themselves were talking about in recent weeks and the months quite actively about Ukraine, NATO, and possibility that that failed state will become a part of NATO, which was, I mean, for me personally, it was kind of surprising because all those talks meant nothing, because it was very obvious from forever, basically, that Ukraine will never become part of NATO or member of NATO. It's that simple. But yet again, current level of Western elites and their propaganda is on such a low level that it's I mean, it's hard to take them seriously, really, and that's why nothing gonna surprise us. You can expect just anything from current Western elites. And this is it. This is it for now. Of course, there will be more topics during the day, and I will share news on my Telegram page. But for this update is gonna be quite short. And for this update, yes, this is it. For next Saturday, I will definitely try to mention, at least on Friday, that I will have a day off, because yes, one day off in a week probably are necessary to just recharge and have enough energy to carry on. So yes, this is it. I wish you a great weekend, nice time, take care, and see you soon.